really lucky to have some experts and new partners here from IEPA Energy Office, which we'll hear a little bit about. But then this is a workshop, and that we want to put our heads together to see how we can maximize opportunities for eligible communities to access this funding. So don't tune out. We might need your input in the as we get through a presentation here. So Pete, finish your lunch there so you can talk later. Tanita, glad you're here.
Yes, I'm glad to be there, to be here.
Good. So we're at 2:05, so I'm comfortable in getting started for everyone. So thank you all for being here. And I'm Edith Macra. I'm the Environment Director for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, or MMC. We put this workshop together very quickly in response to an opportunity that is being put out by the Illinois EPA. And this is an opportunity where we have just a wee bit more time than usual to respond to the opportunity announcement. And so we wanted to kind of pull together this workshop for everyone to participate and talk about how to apply for this grant funding. But very generously, we're really excited and grateful to have Illinois EPA staff who manage the program join us here. So I'll just turn this over in a minute here to John DeRosa, who's joining us from the IEPA Energy Office. Then he'll be followed by Adina Rivas, talk in details about the program. I will then show some examples of potentially eligible plans. It's just so you have an idea of what a finished plan might look like and how this funding can get you there if it suits you. And then we'll open it up for input and again, ideas on how to move forward to capture this funding opportunity. So again, as Cheryl said, if you would identify your community in the chat, your name, your title, and your community, just so we can get to know each other here. And I am going to introduce John DeRosa, who's the Office of Energy Manager. He works for Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, whose role it is to oversee all Office of Energy programs for the state of Illinois. Before working at Illinois EPA, John was Senior Director at the American Lung Association, bringing over 17 years of experience working on program design and implementation for a variety of indoor and outdoor air quality initiatives, as well as managing state, federal, and private funding. John?
Thank you, Edith. Let me pull up my presentation here real quick. We'll get going. All right. All right. Everyone see that all right?
Looks great.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Edith and the caucus for this opportunity. We're really at the Office of Energy trying to get out and share our programs more. We have a full team here now that's been here for a bit, and we're starting to build our program out. I'm going to go over just real quick, real brief, kind of what the Office of Energy is doing and some of the other programs we have, and then I'll turn it over to Adina to do a deep dive into the EECPG Energy Planning and Climate Action Plan work and program that we have available. Office of Energy team is located in Springfield, Illinois, or Springfield, Illinois, but Springfield. Right now we have five team members working on various programs that we have to offer. Our focus in the Office of Energy is on energy efficiency, resiliency, clean energy through public partnerships and interagency collaborations. We do a lot of work with our partnering agencies through intergovernmental agreements, and with a whole goal to reduce energy burden and improve energy equity in Illinois. We are bringing on a sixth person here on June 3rd, so we'll have another team member that'll be helping us out with some of the additional funding that's come through over the last few years. So the Office of Energy has several different funding sources. Prior to the last few years, we received a state allocation through U.S. Department of Energy. That's our state energy program, the SEP program that you see there at the top. All of our federal funds do come from U.S. Department of Energy. The newer funding sources that we have is through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That is where the EECBG funding came from that Adina is going to be talking about. And then we also received Inflation Reduction Act funding that I'll talk a little bit about briefly. And we do have some state funds that do fund several of our programs also. The Energy Efficiency Trust Fund and the Renewable Energy Trust Fund. So a lot of our focus in the past, prior to getting this additional fund, we have really used our state energy program funds to do public water infrastructure assessments. We've done this through partnerships with the Illinois Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, CDAC, and the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center. They have been handling all of our public water infrastructure assessments. So they'll go in and do assessments for wastewater treatment facilities or public drinking water facilities. And then after they've had an assessment, we also have an energy efficiency grants program. So once the assessment's complete, they can then be eligible to do some of the efficiency or do some of the things that would help them gain energy efficiency at those locations. This program has, in the past, has been a primary focus and something we always haven't had a ton or a lot of funding. So we really focused in on the assessments and the energy efficiency part of the program. And this is just a slide that kind of shows how many assessments that we've completed and also have planned. This one's a little bit dated; it's from 2021, but it shows that we've done 108 energy assessments. We're probably over 150 now, if not getting closer to 200. We're going to do this map here this year. And after we've done the assessments, we've given out $2.5 million in state energy program funding for efficiency upgrades. And we do this, as I mentioned, in partnership with CDAC and the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center. In addition, we're also partnered with CDAC for energy co-training. So if you're a municipality and you need help in this area, there's a variety of workshops, webinars, and training that CDAC offers. And it's on their website. Connect with Adina or I, and we can get you connected with the right person if you are interested in that. So through our IIJA funding, which came through within the last 1 to 2 years as additional funding to our state energy program. With that funding, we're going to be launching and have launched a few programs already, but we're going to be launching some new ones over the next year. Right now, we do have an energy efficiency assessment grants program that is open. It's for low-income single and duplex family housing, public housing in EJ areas. It's available now. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. And the grants are $5,000 to $25,000 to do energy assessments. So it's to go into the units, evaluate them to see what needs to be done, which would then open them up for energy efficiency funding, to do the upgrades in those homes or in those housing projects. We also have a net zero planning for minority serving junior colleges that we're partnered up with Illinois Green Economy Network. The whole goal of this is to plan towards a net zero emission for greenhouse gases within those junior colleges, help them to come up with a plan, and then also come up with the ways to implement the plan. This program is going to start, we're hoping, July of 2024. That's the plan, but we're on track for that. And then, there's going to be some legwork doing the outreach. And then that'll be a 3 to 4 year program starting July of 2024. And then this will be new and something that we're looking forward to, but it's going to be coming later this year. We do plan on doing public water infrastructure renewable energy grants. We have about $4 to $6 million here. where we can do the renewable energy grants. We spent a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier, doing the assessments and getting the infrastructure efficient as possible. Now it seems to make sense to go in and do the renewable side. We're expecting this notice of funding opportunity in late 2024. In addition, we also have, through our state funds, I mentioned earlier that you could do energy efficiency assessments for single and duplex family housing through our IIJA funding through the state energy program. Once you've done that, we have funding for doing the actual implementation side of those energy efficiency measures that were shown in the assessment. That would be good to do. So we have 25,000 to 500,000 available. This is available now for public housing, units of local government, municipalities, counties, townships, or if you're a nonprofit organization that wants to help out with one of those entities. And last but not least, one of our bigger programs that we are working on this year is through the Inflation Reduction Act funding. Illinois was allocated about $260 million total for 2 different home energy rebate programs, one being the home efficiency rebate program, so it focuses on energy efficiency. We received about 132 million allocated to that program. And then we also have the home electrification and appliance rebate program. We have about almost 132 million in that one as well. It's income based, focused on single and multifamily housing. We are anticipating this to be up and running in January through March of 2025, so Q1. We're working right now to finish up our applications with the U.S. Department of Energy, and we anticipate those being submitted this June. Adina probably has this too, but for all the things I just mentioned, we have 7, I think, notice of funding opportunities coming out over the next 12 to 18 months. So the best way to keep track of all of that is through our website and through our listserv. So definitely get signed up. Always like to make sure. So anything that notice of funding opportunity will go out through that listserv. So you'll always be in the loop on what we have to offer. And that is it. I just want to emphasize what Adina's energy planning and the climate action plans are very important because it can help you unlock a lot of additional funding. I think you're going to learn that from Adina here and the caucus on why it's important to have these energy plans in place. And with that, I will introduce Adina. All right, and thank you again for this opportunity. And Adina is now going to do a deep dive into our energy planning program. Adina Rivas is an energy projects coordinator in the Office of Energy at the Illinois EPA, whose role is to oversee the grant application process and project implementation of several programs related to energy efficiency and renewables. Adina has over 6 years of experience working with local government, as well as overlapping background made up of 8 years in academia and 14 years working in the nonprofit sector for labor and environmental organizations. Adina, the screen is yours.
All right, sorry, my computer runs a lot slower than John's. Thank you, John. Is everyone seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Looks great.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, John, for the introduction, but for MMC for putting this together so fast, and to all of you for joining and having the time. I'll be talking about our 3rd round funding opportunity that is available through our office, which John did a great job explaining and kind of going through some of the details. So I got to move. I don't know how to. Oh, here we go. I got it. All right. There you go. So if you missed the first and the second round, you will get another chance. As far as first round had energy planning and projects associated. Second round is energy planning alone. This third round is energy planning as well. And then we will be having some projects funding opportunity coming out later, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. So there's a lot of opportunities coming around, and the EECBG has been around for a wee bit. We had a very short window to get it out. And so I don't know if you guys have actually been made aware of some of the second publishings or not, but hopefully you guys can take advantage of this opportunity. It's open for a lot longer. It will be due in another month. The closing window will be June 17th. So as I'm walking through this presentation, I'm also going to walk you through the Notice of Funding Opportunity, known as NOFO. For those of you that don't necessarily have the day-to-day working with that and kind of reading through some of the language of it, I'll just kind of highlight some key points to pay attention to when you yourself go onto our webpage and download. So to get right into it, for many of our programs, as John mentioned, we get a lot of federal funding. We do get some state, but for this one in particular, we partner with the United States Department of Energy, so the US DOE. We leverage those federal funding and state programming, specifically for this one, focusing on energy efficiency, resilience, and clean energy technologies. So that's the program we're here to talk about today, which is a very long Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, or better known as EECBG, because we love acronyms. So Illinois was awarded originally $2.9 million for the state level EECBG program. And out of this third round funding, we are awarding $25,000 to $150,000 for every grant. We have around $500,000 still left to distribute through this particular funding round. So under the Illinois EECBG program, and it's administered by our office and is funded by the US DOE Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funds, grant funding will be made available for the development of local strategic energy plans. It is important to note, I'm not sure if any of you on the call today were awarded through the US DOE federal grants EECBG program, but if you are a community, a municipality, or a county that was eligible for formula grant or voucher funding and is identified on the final list of formula grant funding allocations, you are not eligible for our state program. So I do want to repeat, you're not eligible if you're on this list. So there is a link that Cheryl can share in the chat. And if you're not sure where you are actually standing, you can look into that. If you are a municipality under a county that was awarded or on that list, you as a municipality are still eligible for this program, right? So the county might have been on the federal list and eligible for the federal funding, but you're a municipality underneath that county, you're still eligible for state funding for this program. So if you have further questions on that at the end, I can definitely ask or answer anything else. So again, if you're unsure of your local status or where you're at or where your county might be sitting, just take a look at that list. So as mentioned, the overall EECBG program is designed to help units of local government, which includes municipalities and counties in this instance, to primarily identify, design, and create local energy and or climate action plans. It goes by many different names, sustainability plan, green communities, whatever you want to call it. But such planning should include strategies and actions to reduce the communities, or municipalities' overall energy use and improve energy efficiency. The program is also designed to help units of local government design and implement plans, procedures, and measures to reduce fossil fuel emissions in ways to include and implement change in Justice 40 areas, or what the IEPA identifies as areas of environmental concern or environmental justice concern, or EJ areas. So the primary focus, obviously the core of it, of this one in particular, is planning. So as we all know, planning leads to action. And at the local level, as John said, having an energy or climate action plan, or as MMC can actually attest to, it goes beyond the basic preparation and community building and goes towards long-term sustainability. So such planning can qualify units of local government for future state or federal funding. And that can be far-reaching in the sense of local progress, resilience, and adaptability. So furthermore, I kind of mentioned real briefly, but the second and third round EECBG award applicants will be eligible for the fourth round that will be coming out in late fall, early new year, but we're shooting for late fall. But anyway, if you are awarded and any type of award through the third round, or if you were awarded through the second round, you will be eligible for projects. So the projects are going to be those identified within those plans. So what is an energy plan? Simply put, throughout the whole thing, it is the creation of a strategic plan or a long-term roadmap. MMC will actually kind of give you an example of these at the end of my presentation. But as mentioned earlier, energy plans focus on and guide efforts to reduce fossil fuel emissions, a community's total energy use, and improve your overall energy efficiency. So in this regard, energy plans, again, often referred to as climate action plans, sustainability plans, they catalog existing energy consumption sources and users. So you could say your buildings within your municipality or within your community. You could look at not only municipal assets, but also school systems and other buildings. You could also look at other energy consumption like your street lighting. You also have vehicles, so mobility. That's also another use, especially when you're talking about if you have any electric pumps or I'm having a brain fart on what that's called, but you get the idea. But anywho, so it develops strategies and actions to meet the goals to reduce all of that energy use overall for the community, and it identifies resources needed to ensure effective completion of these strategies. Something, it's going to be a plan that doesn't just go into a drawer and collect dust, but something that is really tangible for your community on how you can go from point A, here's your baseline, and then, over the years, in 5-10 years, you can actually get to the point where you're really reducing at a high volume. So for this program, applicants can use the funds to do several different things. You can update an existing climate action plan or a sustainability plan to include an energy section, if you don't have an energy section already. You can utilize funds to expand existing sections on energy, or you can utilize funds to create from scratch a completely new climate action or sustainability plan that is either simple, that's why the funding goes from 25,000, or it can be robust. That's why it goes all the way to 150,000. But it must include an energy as a main component of some sort. So again, you'll be given some examples of what that looks like at the end of my presentation by the MMC. So please note that applicants are not expected to have a full energy plan outline within their application. You have basically less than a month to get your application in. We're not expecting you to have an idea of every single thing that you want to look at within your community or what's going to entail that energy plan. Just kind of knowing that you want a more robust plan is enough. And then you can kind of understand some of the aspects that go into that, right? So maybe you're looking at buildings, you're creating a baseline. And I will go over here in a second how the DOE actually has some information to help you with that as well. So to help applicants understand the overall grant application process, I'm just going to briefly kind of go over the NOFO process and really point out how simple this particular application process is compared to especially larger state or federal grants. So this slide shows you kind of the basic grant process from the original notice of funding opportunity, better known as NOFO, to the final IGAs, or in this regard, it'd probably be UGAs, the Uniform Grant Agreement. So looking at this slide, you can see that the NOFO is a formal announcement on the availability of funds. So this one was published on Friday, April 19th. And so you have 60 days. Ours closed on June 17th. And all applications are due no later than 5 p.m. And there's an email within the NOFO. And basically, you're going to upload all of your materials into a PDF. Make sure it's all together in one or in separate PDFs. But you have to get it into our email box no later than 5, or else it's just not accepted. And that's unfortunate sometimes. So for selected or awarded applicants, a notice of state award known as a NOSA will be announced sometime in July, with fully executed intergovernmental grant agreements, IGAs or UGAs, or contracts, hopefully finalized by September, if not earlier. So a formal press release will follow the final execution of grant agreements. For this program, and it's important to note, all grantees are expected to complete any and all projects by June 2026. So although it's like, oh, okay, we have basically less than a month to get our applications in, you do not have to have your actual plan done for another 1.5 years, right? So there's plenty of time to get all this done. But here's kind of a general look and anticipated dates. Very easy. This is also in the NOFO itself. So again, you have over 1.5 years to complete your energy plans if you are actually awarded an award either through second round or this round in particular. So here's the NOFO, kind of a look. This is the very first page. So the published NOFO is your ultimate guide. To start with, the main table summary highlights important information, including the opening and closing date, and then the award range. Like I said, 25 to 150,000. So simple energy plans to more robust. This page also includes whether cost sharing or match is required. And for this program, which is a really big deal, there is no cost sharing or match requirement, which is huge. And it's definitely an opportunity if you guys aren't on the allocation list from the DOE that you should go after. So next, while you're going through the NOFO, pay close attention to the program description. It's literally the next section, section A. So the section is especially important to read through. It'll include the basic program background, and it addresses objectives specific to the program. So as a reminder, this is State of Illinois EECBG is an offshoot of the federal US DOE EECBG program. The entire purpose of the program is to help assist local units of government with the development of strategic energy plans. So because of that, the US DOE, they have these blueprints. And this is the one that you guys can actually go and look at. It's the energy planning blueprint, and Cheryl again can share the link to that. It can help you put your application together, specifically what goes into energy planning. MMC, I'm sure, can help you determine what goes into an energy plan just by giving you, again, some examples and some information from those examples. So the next section to point out within the NOFO is the funding information. It has information on funds from the US DOE saying that it's a federally funded program. And then it also has information on the eligible costs that you're going to put into your budget. For this program in particular, the eligible costs include service, contractual, and administrative costs. But admin costs cannot exceed more than 10% of the amount awarded. We do obviously expect that planning necessarily won't be done in-house. You can do it in-house, and that can include planning committee, board, governing body putting this together. But we obviously understand that a lot of villages and municipalities are small, or many people are wearing multiple hats and that they won't be able to do that. And so contractual agreements from an outside organization are acceptable. Grantees will be reimbursed no more than once per month for qualifying costs incurred after the execution of the actual grant agreement. So I've had people kind of wanting to jump the gun as soon as they get the NOSA, so the Notice of State Award. But you have to wait for the actual grant agreement, which for this, again, you have until July 2026 to get all of your expenses in. But one of the most important things, again, is it is a reimbursed program. So you pay and then you get reimbursed. Again, no more than once per month. So the next section to point out within the NOFO goes into further detail regarding eligibility. It is important to look through eligibility to make sure that you're crossing all those T's and dotting all those I's. We're a state, so we do look at all that. We are obviously contingent, on whether or not you're in good standing or not in good standing. So some of the stuff that you'll find regarding in this area is registration with the state of Illinois, Secretary of State's office, as well as the system for award management known as SAM.gov. You'll also find information on how to create and ensure the GATA portal access. So all of which are requirements for successful application submission. There's also a helpful checklist. I highly suggest going into the NOFO and checking it out. Unfortunately, if no is checked on any of those, it basically probably means that you're not eligible for funding. If you do check no, just kind of reread the question. And if you have any questions, reach out to us and we can kind of see if there really is an issue or if you are actually eligible. Of course, if you have any questions for eligibility, you can also reach out to us. So this section also has information regarding cost share or match requirements, which there are none, again, for this program. It also has details on indirect or direct cost rate, as well as compliance with NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, BABA, which is Build America, Buy America, which is very important when it comes into the projects, not so much going to come into effect here, and as is the David Bacon Act. So for those that are unfamiliar with the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, it's our favorite thing ever. It's called GATA. We deal with them a lot, and it's a lot of crossing the T's, dotting the I's for good reason. It became law in 2014 with the purpose of helping to establish a uniform administrative requirements. We basically, through the state of Illinois, distribute over $15+ billion. So it's important that we have oversight and that taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely, efficiently, and with transparency. Try saying that 3 times. So the GATA webpage supports the grantee by offering grant-related training, providing guidance and support regarding fiscal administration and programmatic requirements. If you have any questions on GATA, you can always go into your GATA portal. If you're running against the gun here on trying to get your application in and you're having issues with GATA, definitely reach out to us as soon as possible because we have our own internal GATA people through the IEPA that might be able to help or assist. So when putting together an application, it's important that you visit the portal and complete all of the pre-qualifications. Here's kind of a general overview of what it looks like on all the kind of pre-qualifications for GATA. You will actually have access to these slides, so I'm not going to stay on it too long or go over any of these in particular, but it's important that to help assist you with the GATA documents, if you go onto our main program webpage, I have an easy links document that you can download, and it basically has all the direct links for all of the GATA information or the documents that you'll need for your final application. Cheryl has the direct webpage for you for the program itself as well. So the next section of the NOFO to pay attention to is the application and submission information section. It provides info on formatting as well as links to download and submit completed applications. Again, the deadline is June 17th at 5 p.m. sharp. So if you send that email at 5:01, it is not going to get received into our email box in time. So just to let you know, usually do about 15 minutes before and you'll be dandy. But I know some people are like, when do I push the button? So anyways, push it sooner. So this section also has information on any funding restrictions or any submission requirements, such as the programmatic risk assessment questionnaire, info on SAM.gov, and then how to acquire your unique entity ID, your UEI, if you haven't done so already. So most important, and I want to really highlight this section, especially for your application, this is what you want to look at. So this is the narrative, and the narrative project plan is completely spelled out in this section itself. You'll see that it has literally the entire thing, kind of ABCD or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the whole project itself on what we're actually looking for and the questions for you to address and to let us know the information about your community is all right here. So the full description, I would say properly address each one of these points and you'll be golden as far as your application being very clear to the reviewers. So the section includes, for the first one, is a full description of the applicant. And then you have estimates on all this stuff, right? So you don't have to spend an overwhelming amount of time getting the exact numbers because we'll get exact numbers as the process goes along and as you're creating your energy plan. What we need right here are general estimates. I know some communities, when they're talking about, I think it's the average electrical rates for the population served. Obviously, for a municipality or village, you're going to have your own rates for your own assets, and then you're going to have residential rates. Look at your overall residential rates if you can get them. And again, it's really just estimates and just kind of generating a baseline. The second one is information specific to the project or the energy plan, timeline itself. And this can be included as text. I feel that it's easier to do it as a table. So I suggest people, do it as a table as far as that, this is what we want to do and this is what we expect to get it done. So if it's going to drop in September, then by December, we expect to get, ABC done. By February, we expect to get this done, right? So the next section is similar in the sense of using a text or even a table. It's basically your budget. This is very important. You can put down all of the amount of information on your actual budget template, your uniform budget template, which is a separate document that's due. But unless you actually explain where that money is going, it's difficult for us to weigh how your project or how your planning is going to be impactful for your village, community, whatever it may be. All right. So adding that budget narrative, that project budget into your narrative is going to be very important. So a full, complete application addresses all these aspects of the narrative. And I, again, highly suggest that you use this outline and follow the format provided. This way, all the required asks are addressed and there's no questions and the reviewers don't have to fumble through and see if you actually answered something, right? So it's important to note that while the narrative should include a full itemized budget breakdown, which will most likely be based on estimates, you don't need actual quotes from contractors or a consultant. You just need an estimate. applicants must also complete the uniform budget template. So the budget template is available separately on our webpage. You download that. It's actually a fillable form. And then that will actually either be inputted into your overall application or sent as a separate file as a PDF within that application email. So there are signatory pages within the budget template. There's line items for other expenditures, including indirect costs. So to give you an idea what the budget template looks like, it looks like this. That's kind of the first page or the second page. So this is an example of what a budget might look like. You have some personnel, again, that can't be any more than 10% of the overall cost. You have some contractual services, and then they have kind of a large amount being consultant. And it's important to note that municipalities and counties wanting to claim an indirect cost, which is right here. Actually, I kind of highlight that, which is right there. You have to really work this out as a modified total direct cost unless you have already a federal rate that's been negotiated. Most places don't. So you would say, yes, I want indirect costs through GATA. And then on your uniform budget template, you would then work it out. So we have created a fun worksheet for you to help you get to this MTDC to make it a lot easier. So on our program webpage under Application Assistant Resources, you'll find two different downloadable calculation worksheets. So one is a PDF. It's a manual version where you will download, print, and fill everything out, and then you calculate it manually, for those of you that love to do that. And then you have Excel file, which basically does it for you. You have all these fields that you can't mess it up, really. You just fill in the purple fields, and I'll show you that in a second. And then it calculates your MTDC. So both of them work. It just depends on how you want to do it. So both versions of the worksheet, you'll find what categories are included into the MTDC calculation for indirect and what categories are not. So there are costs that are included and those that are excluded. Most of the excluded you're not going to be using anyways when it comes to energy planning. So here's an example. You'll find calculation examples to help you on both those forms. This one in particular is example of the long-handed. So this is how you would use the long-handed manual. You would basically, all the budget items are added, so including each subaward and or contract. So you'll add up lines 1 through 15, and that will give you your total direct cost. And now you need to find out how much per subaward or contract you are able to claim. And only the first $25,000 of each contract is eligible to claim. I can definitely clarify this for anybody that has questions at the end. But anyways, if $25,000 of each contract is eligible to claim, if you look at the examples that are given, the A and B, which is right here, right? So contractual A, B, C. So A and B is 50,000, right? Of the 75,000 is not eligible because only the first 25,000 is eligible. For subaward B, since it's 26,000, 1,000 of the 26,000 is not eligible. For subaward C, all of 24,000 is eligible because it is still below the $25,000 max. So hopefully that's making sense. Afternoon math, yay. So once complete, you add this section up and then you subtract your excluded costs from your direct costs. And in this case, it equals $90,000. So with a 10% MTDC rate, which is what yours will actually be for this one if you choose indirect. So 10% of 90,000 is $9,000. So this is your MTDC. Add your MTDC to your direct cost overall, and you will get your total budget. Voila, right? Easy peasy. Oopsies, I think I went past it. There we go. So it seems difficult, but when you're going through it, it's really not. But for those of you that want to do the automated version, you'll find the purple cells. This is what it looks like. It's a one-page type thing as well. You only put the information in the purple cells. So using the same example as before and all the same numbers, I plug it all in there. Here you can see that all the budget items have been entered, and then the budget line items on the left and the subawards, or what is better known as contracts, have been separately added into the column on the right. And then the worksheet will automatically calculate the modified total direct cost for you. And then don't forget to put in the indirect total cost, which is that 10%. And voila, again, same thing. MTDC is complete. So you have the $9,000. It adds directly to your direct cost, and you got the $150. So the overall worksheets are pretty straightforward. Again, I'm not expecting you guys to go in there and be like, oh, I remember everything that she said. So if you have any questions, obviously just reach out to myself, John, or anybody else throughout our office for assistance. So on the main uniform budget template, going back to that, you'll find a space. This is where you'll add the MTDC under the total indirect costs. And then that's when you kind of add your line item that has to be filled in. Going back and forth after you put in your application, this is where we can kind of get into the weeds sometimes. So it's great if you can figure that MTDC out right off the bat. But obviously, if you do it incorrectly, we will obviously look at some of those calculations and try to work with you to recalculate your budget if you have anything that's incorrect. So after you're done with your budget, either incorporate it into your narrative as one large file or send it as a separate document, right? So the last sections to pay close attention to in the NOFO is the application review. This section contains the scoring criteria. It talks about the appeals process as well as the overall award timeline. So when it comes to the criteria and the scoring, all applications are reviewed for completeness, technical merit, and adherence to the grant criteria described within the NOFO. And it definitely, goes in detail, so you can look that over. Once they've been found to be complete, you're just kind of checking all the boxes. Then it undergoes a merit-based review. So some of the things that the reviewers will actually look at, the scoring factors, include the completeness of the application. So just completing everything and doing everything correctly. Again, following that overall format of the narrative, you get more points for, right? So like, yay, 100%, you did a good job going back to school, right? So you get points for just the completeness of the application. You get points for projects located in environmental justice areas of concern. You get points for areas of energy burden. You get points for energy and electric service, and that's specific to whether or not you're municipally owned electric utility or electric co-op. And then lastly, you get points for prospective partnerships between units of local governments. And this is an easy thing to do, right? So it's identifying groups that you can work with. We always like to see it, as does our federal government, as far as the DOE and our partners, they like to see those partnerships. So please keep in mind that each category plays an important role in providing point values and rank applications. So don't miss out on opportunities to get extra points through partnerships, through planning and projects located in environmental justice areas of concern, or those areas of energy burden, making sure that you really highlight those so that we can see in particular that you get those extra points. So total points and distribution amounts can be found within the NOFO itself. As a final wrap up, here's a quick reference page of the necessary steps. Again, you guys are going to get the overall slide, so you can take a look at this more in depth. But it's all there also on the program webpage in the easy links, downloadable forms. Documents required for a complete application are as follows. All the documents and links, again, can be found on our program webpage and within that easy links form. So for some common mistakes are on this slide. Something to keep in mind, to be mindful of as you're putting together your application. Some simple things, right? Like, oops, I forgot to follow the narrative format. Again, you don't have to. It's just highly, highly suggested that you follow that format so that we know that you're hitting all the correct things. Oops, I forgot to include a basic timeline. Again, I would just suggest putting that within a table format. A budget breakdown, kind of the same thing. 2 signatures on the budget template is very important. So you should have one from fiscal and one from who's working as your mayor or your main person. Fill out page number 5 of the budget template. We have a lot of questions on that. You are actually the subrecipient if you are asking for more than 30,000. If you're asking for less than 30,000, then you wouldn't fill out that page. Attach all required documents and don't forget to hit send before 5. So lastly, and John basically had the same information. This is information for the EPA, and if you want any more programs beyond energy, you have air, land, and water. Please go to the main EPA webpage, and you can also follow us on social media. I don't have our link to our overall email and stuff as far as our listserv, but that is definitely something to get connected with. That listserv will be notifying you on everything as far that's getting dropped. And we have a lot of NOFOs going out. We have a lot of funding opportunities even before the end of the year. So there we go. Time for questions.
Wow. Excellent. Thank you for the very quick overview.
That's a lot of
I
information.
have questions, but I think it'd be best if we heard from everyone here about the application process. So any questions for John or Adina? Don't be shy. You can raise your hand in Zoom and also chat. I think we're just going to let you come off mute and ask your questions just for directness.
Such a thorough job.
You
I
did.
did drop that listserv
Yes.
in the
Oh,
in the chat box. Yep.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
Thank you,
And I
John.
did second that with just a recommendation for staying on top of those listservs. I know IEPA will not fill up your mailbox. Carrie, you've got a question. Lucy's got a question. Carrie first. And again, come off mute, Mike. Don't be shy. There you go.
Thank you so much for that. My question is with partnerships. So should it be a joint application? I was thinking of like other suburbs close by Park Forest.
Mhm.
Or how does it have to be everyone in for the exact same thing? Or is it just go ahead.
One entity is going to put in the application period. It's going to be
Right.
under that particular entity. And then within that, it says that, we're going to be working with Park Forest to maybe get some information on their buildings, their assets. Maybe they're working like, so that means that through your grant, you're probably giving some of the funding over to them for some building audits. And maybe there's a local organization that's going to help to maybe do some community groups. So part of the energy planning is to go out into the community and get their feedback on what it is that they think sustainability is or climate action within the community and addressing basically their wants and their needs as well, right? So you might have a community group that's going to be spearheading that for you, right? So like, I mean, kind of like that. It depends on what you have available within your community.
Gotcha. Because
Does that make sense?
Yes, I was thinking like an aggregated application with like Park Forest, Olympia Fields, Homewood, Flossmoor. It's not necessarily that, it's just other partners that could help strengthen our plan, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could
Okay.
do like an aggregation, but it's not. You're still going to be the main recipient, and then you would sub award, right?
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I think, Carrie, there's possibility. We can, that's one of the things we'll do here is just get everybody's thoughts on this and think about how to make this easiest for a lot of communities to participate. So there may be a role for aggregated applications. So let's brainstorm that. But it's nice to know that you can work within your community with local partners if that's what's best for you.
Thank you. Great.
Lucy, go ahead.
Hi, just want to thank everyone for the great presentations, first off. And then secondly, you may have answered this, but I had to step away for a couple of minutes, so I might have missed it. And you also kind of touched on it with Carrie's question, but my question was, can the funding go towards audits to create an energy plan ahead of time, or is the funding strictly for the document creation? Or can it help fund benchmarking to create the energy plan?
Yeah, no, I mean, it can totally go towards benchmarking, right? So like, you can't just go ahead and jump in 2 feet and create the plan, right? That's why you have a year and a half to create the plan. A lot of it, again, depends on where you live. Your benchmarking might not take that much. So that's why the funding is really going from $25,000 to $150,000, depending upon the size of your community or how in depth you want to go. But say in particular, to get the benchmarking and information, you're going to need 3 different audits of 3 different municipal assets, right? And that would be included into your energy plan and what you're putting in for your budget. That's where basically your budget narrative, you're going to put like, okay, I'm going to do for contractual payments in the budget template, you're going to say $75,000. And in all honesty, you'll kind of, explain a little bit within the budget template, but within your narrative, you're going to break that down a little further. That's where you need to explain, well, we're going to have 3 different audits. Each audit's going to be $25,000. This has $75,000 and maybe another $25,000 and a consultant to try and put some of that information together in a baseline data. And then maybe you want to do another assessment that goes into your energy plan, and then maybe you have another committee. So there's all these different costs that come in. Right. So the energy plan itself, it bits and pieces, all the spokes of the wheel coming together to create that cohesive plan you can definitely use for multiple things.
Great, thank you.
Others? I have a couple questions. So Adina, I wonder if you could review the section where you talked about sub-awards and personnel costs. So thinking strategically about this, it sounds like the path to hire a consultant is pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
So that, I guess I'm a little confused on that. So it sounds, and maybe staffing So if a municipality wanted to use some of this funding to supplement staff or bring on an intern or an extern or
Mm.
support staff to do this, it's more complicated. So please repeat that portion for me.
So part of it that's a little difficult is that we only have 10% allocated towards admin costs, right? And we
Mhm.
say, oh, you could do in-house. However, 10% doesn't go very far. It's not going to go towards really paying full salary of somebody or to bring in a sustainability manager, or to create a new position for that. It really is to supplement very small, kind of maybe a community group or even just somebody in-house to go in, maybe host or hold some of the community meetings to get some of that baseline data. The way that it is kind of set up is more for contractual type work.
Okay.
Just
So that
because that
10%,
admin.
yeah, so 10% admin would be inclusive of project staff. So
Mhm.
that's where it sounds like this, yeah, so this is going to be a better arrangement if you brought in someone to help you with this, and that 10% could be having the sustainability coordinator or a staff person work with commission or the consultant or, yeah, an outside group. Okay.
Keep in mind, indirect costs also goes and is considered to be admin, correct, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go for the indirect, you can't do both, right? So you can't say in your budget that you're doing 10% admin in that admin line of the budget template and also adding in 10% indirect cost, right? So
Okay.
it's kind of one or the other.
One
But
or the
indirect
other.
costs you can use on multiple different things, not just admin.
Okay, but still, and then that minimum, that basically amounts to on a
minimis.
$25,000 grant, we're talking, because with your, repeat again the calculation for the, because I have not seen that minimum total direct MTDCO, repeat that again.
Oh, the modified total direct cost.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Mhm.
So we actually have like an in-house calculation, and I asked, can we get that out to people because it's very helpful. I mean, it's and we didn't necessarily have any tool ready for people to calculate that on their own. So when they were setting in their budgets, it was wrong, right? So you had to figure out it's a modified indirect cost, and so you have $25,000 that you can basically are eligible for you to pull that indirect cost from off of each contract. So say a building assessment costs $25,000, boom, you can claim all $25,000, right? But if that building assessment costs $30,000, you can only claim that first $25,000. So $5,000 isn't included. So 10% of $25,000, $2,500 is what you would be claiming for the indirect.
Okay.
Yep, and that's a lot of federal grants do that too, so that
Mm.
you're just not taking the indirect on a large pass through. Like if it's
Yeah.
$1 million and you're really just passing it through in a subaward, you shouldn't
Got it.
take 10% of
10%.
that whole thing probably.
Okay, but for a municipality going for a simple sustainability plan, you can probably get it done with a consultant for 25,000. You're looking $2,500 for the municipality to administer the grant and participate in the project.
Yeah, I mean, so keep in mind the DOE has under the blueprint some of the guidelines,
Mhm.
and in the NOFO it actually talks about some of the guidelines that should be in the energy plan, which I know you guys are going to give an example. And some of the information that was in an energy plan, it's going to be good for in-house going out and getting, again, constituent feedback and adding that in.
Mhm.
And that's just not something that necessarily a consultant can always help with, right? So that's where the indirect cost comes into play, and it's helpful. It can supplement somebody's overall salary to go out and do that, or a nonprofit group, or that's where the partnerships come into play, right?
Okay.
Again, you don't have to have all this figured out,
Sure.
other than
Got
the
to put
fact
together a
that,
plan to get it done, right?
yeah. So I don't want to freak people out and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can figure all this out. You don't have to have
Right.
all of it figured out. You just have to have a general idea that we want to do this and we want to have the ability to do all this. And this is the funding kind of that we're needing for it.
Confident this group can figure out a plan. Many of them have some plans already. If others for questions, I don't want to hog the floor, but I do speak bureaucratese, so I do have some pointed questions just about grants and eligibility and managing these things. So one more question, and just for those, because there are some on the call who have a sustainability plan now. So I'm really interested if the money is for the planning, the money looks like it's going to be mostly for doing those assessments, baseline, queuing up projects for future funding in round 4 is what I'm really interested in, right? So you had said that projects need to be in a plan to be eligible for round 4. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is where,
Strategies, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So our second round funding and our first round funding was literally planning and projects all together, clumped together. And when this program was released, we had a 180-day turnaround to the US DOE. And that was a very, very short time frame to get basically the program out the door, to get people notified that, hey, this is out here, and to get applications back, and then to get contracts out the door on our end. So we've had several different rounds. The first one was just too little time frame for people to get those projects together related to their planning, right? So that's why second and third round are planning specific. So say, for example, you get awarded for the third round, it's the projects are going to come out and they're still both going to be due at the same time. So you have until the end of 2026 or our fiscal year, till June 2026 to get those done, both your plan and your projects. So you say, you're still working on your plan because you're awarded funding through round 3. You'll know, within like a few months of working on that plan, what you really want to focus on as far as in the future for those projects. So you're going to be able to tell ultimately if you have one of your municipal assets is like a village hall or a city hall, it's basically hasn't been updated in 50 years. You know that the lighting in particular is completely outdated, or your HVAC system, any number of different things. Windows, they need to be replaced. They're leaking, and you can tell that your envelope is just horrible, right? Losing heat up top, cool down below, whatever it may be. You know that building in particular is probably going to be your main focus in one of your projects. So you can then determine and guess that you're going to probably do some energy efficiency or EE upgrades, right? So you could literally get some estimates on what it would be for lighting, what it would be for windows, what it would be for HVAC, have all of that, and that's what you would put in for your project. Does that make sense? Even though your plan is still in the process of being completed. When it comes to that, we can definitely help villages and municipalities figure out how to kind of get that worked out, even though they're still working on their plans.
When I go through some of the example plans, maybe you can just flag and see if those kinds of identifying a strategy or an objective, how much that needs to be clearly spelled out, right? And
Yeah,
we'll-
and
yeah.
let me point out, like when we're talking about projects, we're talking about EE projects, not renewables. So EE projects have a shorter
Right.
time frame as far as being complete, and then obviously we don't have the amount of funding that it would take to do renewables.
Okay, so
the planning.
energy efficiency would be the projects that would be prioritized for funding in
Mhm.
round 4. Got
Yes.
it. Okay. Very good. But the energy plan can be more comprehensive, because I'm suspecting
Yes.
some of the folks
Yes.
on this call are going to be really interested in building out. I mean, if you've got a basic sustainability plan, they might be interested in an
Mhm.
energy plan that would be more
Yes.
inclusive, including renewables, or climate objectives, but the ones eligible for funding in the future would be energy efficiency related.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea behind all of this is that you start with the plan, right? You don't get all the way down the road until you actually create a plan on how to get to the end of the road, right? And then the projects is like, hey, we're going to help you jumpstart that plan. And then that plan should keep on going. You should be able to be linked into other funding sources, whether it's through state or federal or even other funding sources locally. But you have a plan together, and then ultimately that becomes your guide. So we're trying to jumpstart it to the projects that way.
Anybody else have any questions for Dana on the grant eligibility or process? I guess I just, so you just kind of skimmed over eligibility. And then if you can, do you want to talk about that a little bit more? But I'm looking at eligibility versus competitiveness. So do you want to talk to that, or I can ask some questions about that? Let's hear. So for example, it identified as through EJ Screen, and to those of you who don't know, EJ Screen is the state's tool for identifying environmental justice communities, and we tried to do a good job of reaching out to you and identifying those communities. But so if you are identified as a community impacted by environmental justice concerns through that tool, you are more competitive.
Yes.
Correct, but you are not ineligible if you are not on that map. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and in the NOFO, it actually has the point values associated with each one of those eligibility But ultimately you're going to get points. You get definitely more points if you're within an EJ area concern, or environmental justice area concern, or area of environmental justice. But you also get points for the partnerships, as you mentioned earlier. You get points for basically just filling out that application correctly. But the eligibility is as long as you're not, I mean, really the only thing that is making you ineligible is if you are on that DOE formula fund, that allocation list. So there is that federal EECBG program. And if you are on that list, then you are not eligible for ours. And where I get the biggest question for eligibility is that I'm a municipality under a county that was allocated funding. Can I still apply for the state one? And the answer is yes. So even though the county, they were eligible for the federal, underneath all these different villages and municipalities, they can apply because that energy plan is going to look very different at the county level than it is at the village or the municipality level, right? So the municipality is going to be looking more direct into, their assets and their programs, very micro, and the county is going to look very macro.
Mhm. Okay.
So that, I mean, honestly, that's our major eligibility, and everything else on top of that is just point value. And that's where I would look at the NOFO.
And so competitive just depends on the number of applications you get in.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, this is very unusual. The municipal electric utilities are more competitive because of their points values.
And the
for that. So
co-ops.
that's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't have that many in our region in northeastern Illinois, but that was interesting to see that. So
Yep.
I know they appreciate it.
Down south, they appreciate it. Yeah.
So
I
any
mean,
other?
we're in Springfield, so we have, our municipality
Sure.
and Ameren, because we have gas.
So any questions? What I'll do is I'll just show you a couple of sample sustainability plans. And again, because we pulled this together very quickly, Adina hasn't and John haven't really seen the plans. Some of you may have done that, but we're just going to kind of talk about whether or not that's what they're looking for. So just work with us on this one. So, okay, if I move into that, any other questions before I get started? Okay, so. Am I sharing the correct presentation mode? Great. Okay, good. All right. So just an overview. And again, some of you know Greenest Region Compact tools very well. Some of you might be a little bit new to it. But we've got Greenest Region Compact. And a refresher on this one, when the Greenest Region Compact was built, we pulled from existing sustainability plans and then things that communities were already doing to create the Greenest Region Compact. So we call it consensus sustainability goals because we pulled from every sustainability plan written at the time. And then we looked at what 290 communities were already doing. So it has a really robust energy section in it, but they're all tailored for local government. So it's a really good framework or tool for this energy planning. So this analysis that we did goes into our Greenest Region Compact consensus sustainability goals, really simplified at a high level. We have these 10 goal categories, and the Greenest Region Compact goals exist on 2 pages. So this, for those of you who have adopted it, and you can put a comment in the chat if you haven't, and we'll make sure that you can get on board with this right away. No cost to adopt it, open to all Metropolitan Mayors Caucus communities, and then some. We allowed counties because they thought it was a good idea. So really, it's a tool that's available for you to use. It goes through the village board, city council, get behind the goals, and then we get together working on it. For the purposes of this energy planning, you'd be looking at the Greenest Region Compact Companion Framework. So all that research that we did, the clean part went on to 2 pages. The detailed part got stuck in these spreadsheets, which are more detailed than the city council wants to see, but super helpful to those sustainability commissions and staff that have chosen to work with it. In fact, it's set up as an Excel spreadsheet. You can add more detail to it as you want to. So this particular section is on mobility, so pardon me for not changing it out to energy, but you've got the Greenest Region Compact goal that's already been supported by the village board or city council. And then the framework is arranged to help you with strategies and objectives to help you reach that goal. And again, super simplistic on the energy side. And then it's this little tool, set up in Excel, download it, play with it. Some people put it on a shared drive and have other inputs into it, where you can evaluate, have you already done that? Is it even relevant for your community, and how much of it is of a priority is it? They can set some timeframes. It's really just a way to organize a lot of solutions into a sustainability plan. And we've got some really good examples of that. So this has been about more than a dozen communities have used this tool to create their own sustainability plan or assessment. Wilmet's up here, and there's a link there for if you want to find example plans. City of Countryside took the plan. It's a very small community. It's less than 10,000 in population, and their Sustainability Commission worked with staff to work through the Greenest Region Compact framework. And this is what their plan looks like. So they literally took our energy page, marked it up, used it exactly as we intended, and then said, this is our plan. And that's great. I mean, it really couldn't be easier to get a plan done. The conversations that you have to have as a community are the most important part in terms of prioritizing what you can and can't do. And if you're not familiar, Countryside actually has the first net zero public building in Illinois. So we did a nifty tour there. So they're leading on sustainability, but no staff. They put together a plan that really suited their needs. Pretty straightforward and simple. City of Waukegan, this was one that was done originally with one of our Greenest Region Corps members. So this was when we had that AmeriCorps program in partnership with the state of Illinois. We provided some staffing, and the Greenest Region Corps member led in the development of City of Waukegan sustainability plan. This is environmental justice community. This one was a little bit more detailed, and you can see there's an energy section there, again, sort of built around the Greenest Region Compact framework. And they did have a greenhouse gas inventory. They did an analysis in more detail than just using the checklist, where they articulated some of the goals related to climate, energy, and air quality. And to those of you who think we don't have the resources to do this, or we don't know how to, if you aren't familiar with it, CMAP did these beautiful snapshots of greenhouse gas inventories. And Tonito, I did this for you as I'm putting the slide deck together. So the city of Bellwood, every municipality in every county in the Chicago metro region had this analysis done by CMAP, and you can go to that link and download it and use it as a way to just understand where your priorities are. So between the framework and the greenhouse gas inventories and these example plans, it's not going to be that hard for you to put together your own sustainability or energy plan. And I didn't go into details here, but remember that we have a climate action plan for the Chicago region. This was done in 2021, and this is also scaled for municipal action. So I guess with that, just any feedback from John and Adina, if these kinds of plans are going to be the things that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. So for this page here that you're showing, which is great, right? So this is like the simple to the, to the more extensive, where you're having multiple different things that you're looking at for the community in the long term, right? But you have to have an energy component for the energy plan for our program in particular. This is great. And then hopefully it would be kind of beefed out later on as far as how you get to each one of those. Is what we'd be looking for in the end as well. So that's not just something that you're looking at and you don't know how to get to that,
Right.
which is giving you like real legit, this is going to be your steps to do this. There's funding opportunities available here. But this is a great starting point and great, amazing tools that you guys have at your disposal to use. I would highly point out that when we say 25,000 to 150,000, you definitely don't want to put in, anything less than 25,000, right? So it's like, the minimum, to the maximum, right?
I'm looking on here just to see how much detail you want. So kind of we've been working on building energy codes and benchmarking. So if you look at the level of detail in this in the energy page here, we don't have the benchmarking one snapshotted on this particular slide, but let's say looking at E13A, adopt codes and permitting practices that support renewable energy system. This isn't for renewables, never mind. Let's do energy efficiency. I just want to see how much detail. So if looking at E8, achieve Energy Star certification for municipal buildings, if that is articulated in a plan in round 3, is that something that could achieve funding to implement that? Maybe hire a consultant or train staff to do that in round 4.
Round 4 is going to be for projects though, right? So the Energy
Right.
Star is going to be part of that. It'll
Okay,
actually be like an energy efficiency project. So lighting, HVAC, envelope.
But this
Like
coupled
fans.
with doing some assessments, so would trigger the efficiency upgrades, right? So
Mhm.
something even like this, then have some specific buildings that have completed assessments through this planning would open that up, right, Dina?
Sorry, say that again.
So like once, yeah, so this, even though this is pretty straightforward and simple right here, this with the assessments is what will be necessary in order to energy assessments of like some specific buildings in order to do the projects in the fourth round.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're gonna have you're gonna want to have, some type of audits that are saying that the building, the envelope is less than par. But again, second and third round, they're planning only, and then fourth round is going to be for projects, all of which is going to be due at the same time. You might not be able to have some of those audits complete by the time you're putting in for the application for round four, but you should have a general idea of what you're going to be looking
Mhm.
for. So whether it's, again, we have kind of a list of the EE projects that are going to be um, allowed. I can actually pull it up if my
Sure.
computer allows me.
Yeah, let me stop sharing. And before I leave this screen, let me just say, so for example, E5, implement energy efficiency measures that have a short-term payback. So you would be looking, and this
Yes.
could be adequate, at least to get started. And a community might say, these are the buildings that we're going to target for energy efficiency. And this is the kinds of projects that we're looking for. Round 4, they could say, please fund these projects. Is
Yes.
that, okay, got it.
Yeah, because again, I mean, for round 4, you might not necessarily have had those audits that are pinpointing that, right? But with the
Mhm.
hope that by the time you're done with your energy plan, you're going to have those projects pinpoint. I don't know if my computer's going to open this up or not.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and let you go back to sharing. And again, please raise your hand, ask some questions.
Edith, it
Chat
does
it up.
like we have a question in the chat, a clarification of if they can apply for round 4 funding without receiving an award in round 3.
If you've already had an energy plan in place within the last 5 years, yes. So your community has an energy plan and you were not eligible for direct formula funding through the DOE, you would be eligible to put in for a grant. So is it only eligible for those that did second and third, awardees? No, it's going to be eligible to all communities throughout Illinois that have energy plans already put into place, which makes it competitive, right?
Adina, most of our communities don't have an energy plan, but I'm looking, and that question came from Highland Park. They have a pretty sophisticated sustainability plan. But if it has energy projects identified,
Yeah.
that would be, they could implement those projects, even if they don't receive a round 3. They may not actually need a round 3 additional planning.
Right. As long as they have that section of like energy planning in particular as a section, allocated section, then yes. Yeah, they would be
Okay.
eligible for round 4. So here we go. I might be able to share my screen.
Pretty good for a WebExer there, Adina.
Huh?
Said pretty good for a WebExer there.
Yeah. So this was our first round NOFO. It's going to be the same language. Are you guys seeing it?
We're at the black screen right now.
It's
It might
coming
be
there. It says you've
loading.
started sharing. Mhm.
Yep,
That's
there
my
it is.
computer. Churning.
We're there.
Okay,
We
there.
can see it.
Okay, so this program guidance here, this will be, oops, let's move that out of there. This will be the same, all of these as far as, so we're looking at retrofits right here. So building assets, including heating, cooling, ventilation, HVAC system and equipment, lighting controlling system, building envelope. They must result in energy savings. And this is kind of be the biggest thing right here for the projects. So that's where, the energy planning and having some type of baseline is going to be important again through the second and third round because you're working on your plans. You might not have some of the baseline, but we're going to assume and estimate savings based on some pretty quick estimates through that program or through that fourth round funding. So a lot of this stuff is not going to be for new construction. So that's where renewables do not come into play, or non-replacement of equipment. So some of the big equipments, like we're just not going to have funding for that. But it is, I mean, it's for some pretty good stuff. You have control systems too. A lot of them are outdated. Some of them are old electric control systems, and then updating those control systems is really important for some of the buildings. So these are some of the key activities. There's also going to be like a blueprint that we're going to share. So just like there's an energy planning blueprint from the DOE, there is an energy efficiency and energy audits and building upgrades blueprint as well. So the energy audits, if you haven't had that done through the planning, that might also be included in the projects. We haven't quite decided that yet. We'll figure out the rest of that later. But that's the general gist. So all EE type upgrades for the most part are going to be included into that second round or the fourth round.
So the plan can be more inclusive, but you're going to move forward or advance with the energy efficiency or EE projects.
Sorry, say that again. It like cut out.
The plans that could be funded could be more comprehensive. So those communities that are looking for a climate
Yeah.
plan or a sustainability plan, but the ones to go forward with they have to include energy efficiency, and the ones that go forward that could be funded would be energy efficiency ones.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So let's open this up to the group. We wanted to have your interpretation of how to advance an application here, and then any suggestions of strategies, how you think you might pursue this. I'm going to call on people if nobody has a question. So Pete, I'm going to pick on you. I hope you're done with lunch, because that would have been a long lunch. And I know this is something Richton Park has been wanting, a sustainability plan to get some funding for this. What do you think of this opportunity? And how do you think you might respond? And do you think this is going to help you?
I'm sorry, I heard my name, but I missed the question in the middle of something else. But not much.
Right. The question is, I know this is something Richton Park has been wanting, is to have
Yes.
funding to do a sustainability plan. And do you think from the presentation and what you've now learned, do you feel like this is going to help you? Is this going to be a suitable grant for you to apply for?
From what I've seen, it looks like it could be a suitable grant to apply to. I know that our mayor, our board has been very committed to finding the right resources to be able to get the kind of sustainability plan that that we envision us having. So I think that it would be great for us to pursue this.
Mm-hmm. Carrie, I might go back to that partnership question. Let me ask what you were thinking when you saw this announcement. What were you thinking might be right for Park Forest?
Well, with the partnerships, I know we're an EJ community. I believe we're not on that list, so we're eligible. So I was just wondering if I needed to tap into the other suburbs and do it all together. But now, as I heard going forward, I'm just looking back into our climate action and resilience plan, and we do have energy efficiency section. And now it makes me think of more of our facilities, buildings, and energy efficiency. And I wondered if it would help with benchmarking. That is one of our hardest issues, of having capacity for that. So that might help to add to this document a little bit more, update it. So we're in the process, we're in a good spot for the 4th round, even though we should be eligible without going through the 3rd. It doesn't, just to clarify, it's not residential, it's just municipal buildings, correct? That the funding can help, or the plan can work around.
For audits, yeah, you're looking at assets, but you could have, this is kind of where you get kind of a little bit in the gray area, right? You could have a consultant that's trying to do the benchmarking that might also be looking at not just assets, that are municipal, but kind of the whole community, right? And it's
Okay,
kind of like a way to kind of get into doing some of the other, like maybe there's multifamily buildings, or maybe there's only a couple, big, large multifamily buildings within the community that they're going to look at, or maybe they're able to get access to some of that benchmarking without necessarily doing a full audit. Some of that
Okay.
stuff they can access through utility data.
uh-huh. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
What do you think? All right, thank you.
Anybody else, any of the communities with a sustainability plan in hand, thinking about maybe, go ahead, Lucy. You're kind of reading my mind there. Lucy, ask your question.
Yeah, mine is essentially the same thing of if we already have an energy section of our plan. Edith, you had mentioned we just essentially used the Greenest Region Compact. It's what our plan was formed after. So we have a decently robust energy section, but was wondering if we would need to apply for round 4 for benchmarking, or if we could skip, or if we could, round 4 for benchmarking, if that needs to be done with round 3, or if we could skip the planning section since we already have the plan and then apply for benchmarking as a part of round 4, or if round 4 was strictly for upgrades and not benchmarking and audits.
In the way we had it written before, audits were included with the energy efficiency side. We could do that. We could do benchmarking.
In round 3 or 4?
3.
Oh, okay.
But
So round 2 and 3 were specifically for the planning that includes benchmarking for the plan. In round 1, we had included our energy efficiency as far as audits and building upgrades together. That was the project side of it, right? So in the round 4, the idea is to just release the projects themselves that have already been benchmarked and identified within the plan. But this is where it gets kind of a little confusing. If you're already working on that plan, where do you go from there, right? So that's where we might say, specifically that if you're still working on the plan, that will include audits into it. That's what we're still working out.
Yeah, so maybe the good thing here would be to just go ahead and do the benchmarking in this round. Get that done, build it, build that part into your plan, and then be ready to go for the
Round 4.
round 4.
It's not going to limit
it.
your funding if you got accepted for round 3.
Yeah, and then that'll leave possibly more funding for the efficiency side, so you won't eat into your the amount of funding that because there'll be a limit on the amount of funding per application that we'll have.
Say, for example, we put the audits into the building up, or for the projects, right? So say you wanted to get an audit done of 3 buildings and each audit costs, $12,000. That's a big chunk of, maybe you put in for 100,000. So then the actual building upgrades, say you wanted to do windows and HVAC and lighting, you're not going to have enough left over for those projects because those audits weren't included into it, right? So
This may be a dumb question, but doesn't the utility, doesn't ComEd still do the facility
can.
audits?
yes.
Yes.
And since
Yeah.
you're in ComEd territory, you might be able to get those.
Right, so that may not even be the thing that your
Mhm.
Yeah,
budget
we saw
might-
some energy audits come in from ComEd.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the caucus used to partner on that with ComEd, so I just assume they're still doing those. Okay.
Yep.
So let me ask this group what you might need, if there's any help that you need to go forward with an application, and is there anything that we can do to foster partnerships? Kind of to Carrie's comment, I was thinking that we could do because we have the tools, the caucus could put in an application on behalf of some of the smaller communities and maybe come up with, use our template plan to provide some tailoring, then we could get a lot of plans done for less money than if you do it individually.
Yeah.
Is that appealing to anyone? Probably for the communities that don't already have a plan.
The only
No, so not-
problem with our print, it has to be from the community itself.
Has to come from the municipality.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good to know. So then those partnerships, you're back, I'm doing that, pulling them together
Mhm.
with other municipalities. Okay, so
Yes.
that'd be again, Cary and Park Forest doing that.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions from the group?
Yes, could definitely have a round table, and figure out
Mhm.
how to,
How-
do it all
yeah.
together, and then just, helping each other to get those. And then, each one of you also, ultimately put in the application.
Let's follow up and see, we'll follow up with an email and see who wants to move forward with this. And then see what we can't do. Remind us again, it's June, what's our deadline? June
17th.
17th. So yeah,
Yep.
not that much time. It's not tomorrow, but it's not that much time to get this all together. It doesn't
Yeah.
look, I have to say the application doesn't look horrendous.
It's not. I mean, and I know I threw a bunch of information in the presentation, but I can't stress enough, just follow the narrative that's in the
Mhm.
NOFO. The outline's
Okay.
there. All the questions are there. You do a budget template. It's downloadable form. You do a compliance checklist. You do a disclosure, conflict of interest. It's all there. Everything that you need to fill out. There's a lot of T's, cross T's, dot I's or whatever. But the main meat of it all is that narrative. How are you going to use that funding? And that's what we want to know.
Okay.
And if you mess up your budget a little bit here and there, we're not gonna completely scorn you and throw out the application like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing, right? Like we do work with communities because we want to get this money out the door, helping. The whole idea is to make it so that this funding is going towards planning to have these long-term plans in place.
Well, we are at time and I think the group is fading. But thank you so much everyone for your attention, and thank you so much Adina and John. It's really been helpful, and like I said, really genuinely appreciate the collaboration, the opportunity to learn about this program and see what we can't do to help our communities be more competitive.
Thank you guys. You guys have great
Yeah.
resources for these communities, so take advantage.
Thank
And
you.
thanks again for the opportunity to work with you. Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll do some more work together in the future.
Okay.
All
Hope so.
right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.